Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Mudblood Cal here, and today we're going to be going over the 6th Man of the Year race, and who I think is going to end up winning it. Spoiler alert, it's the man on your screen right now, number 00. A few things before we do get into it. I apologize for my leap of absence. I know that our grind to 100 daily episodes or daily uploads will have to restart, as we were at 25, I believe. Yeah, mostly I was more technical difficulties, same reason last one ended. But yeah, let's get into it. I'm probably gonna have from now until the season ends on the 16th. I'm probably just gonna have award videos and maybe some other stuff. I decided to postpone the Broncos video until after the NBA playoffs are wrapped up and stuff, and we get into that dull kind of area before the NFL season where nothing's really happening and I don't really care enough to talk about baseball. So yeah, leave a like and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter at MudbloodCow, and I'm sorry I've just wasted a minute of your time if you don't care. So we're going to be talking about the 6th Man of the Year race. Lots of guys on here, pretty good at basketball. My 5 that I had predicted before the year started of possible 6th Man of the Year winners were Lou Williams, Tyler Hero, JJ Redick, Montrezl Harrell, and Dennis Schroeder. Only one of these guys ended up making my top 10 list here, and it's Harrell at 7. I don't know really where I got the idea that Schroeder would be starting. That obviously didn't happen, or Schroeder wouldn't be starting. Lou Williams had a down year. JJ Redick kind of struggled with the Pelicans, who was to have found a groove now with the Mavericks. And Tyler Hero has been kind of off and on, but he's not in my top 10. We'll give him an honorable mention, though. He's just outside of it. So we're going to go through my top 10. At 10, we got Shake Milton for the 76ers guy. He's been just pretty helpful starting that shooting guard off the bench. I think he's dropped 40 points once or twice. Or maybe I'm thinking of someone else there. But Shake Milton coming on off the bench, pretty good season. Carmelo Anthony for the Trailblazers at the 9 spot. He's averaging like 13 points per game right now. Still does have some of that ability left over of him just being able to just get to the basket whenever he wants to and just be an elite scorer. And some days, like some games, you'll watch him and he'll drop 30, and it happens every once in a while. Doesn't happen every night, though. But Carmelo Anthony has been outstanding for the Trailblazers this year and a big part of that team. At 8, we have Bobby Portis. I think he's like second in the league in 3-point percentage behind Joe Harris for some reason. But Portis has been really good filling in at the center position for Lopez and some power forward when Giannis isn't on the floor. He's been able to get some rebounds. Sometimes it kind of felt like Giannis was on the floor. Sometimes Bobby Portis felt like Giannis. I'm saying that. I genuinely believe that. Sometimes Bobby Portis looked like Giannis. That was a whole probably about 1% of the season, though, the time he was on the floor. But he was pretty solid overall, and was a really good role player and a pretty underrated pickup, I think, in the offseason. I thought that then. I still think that now. Bobby Portis is a good basketball player. At 7, we have Montrezl Harrell, who's had some really good games off the bench. I wasn't really sure why they weren't starting him, but he's kind of struggled as of late, especially with the Drummond signing making it weird. I think the Lakers might have been better off without Drummond, which seems weird to say, that they would be better off without a guy who just a year or so ago was an all-star level center. But I think the spacing just feels off with Drummond, but Harrell's had a really good year. At 6, we have Thaddeus Young, a guy who's really been able to space the court well for the Bulls at times. But I think he'd be higher. He's at 6 right now if the Bulls were like actually competing for a playoff spot, but they aren't. So he falls down to 6. At 5, we have Chris Boucher off the bench, center for the Raptors. Raptors who have also struggled this year. Similar case to Thad Young, where I think he'd be higher if the team around him was performing better and really making a push for the playoffs. Although I guess in Thad Young's defense, I think the Bulls might still have a shot. They're I think if they went out, they might have a shot. Let me check real fast. So the Bulls are at 11th. They need to get to 10th for a play-in spot to go up against the Wizards. So the Bulls, they're 2.5 games back. Look at their remaining opponents. I think it's safe to say the Raptors are done at this point. But if we look at the Bulls' remaining opponents, we've got the Nets, the Raptors, the Nets again, and the Bucks. That's going to be a really tough stretch. But then you wonder, can the Pacers do better? And the Pacers' remaining opponents are the Cavaliers, the 76ers, the Bucks, the Lakers, and the Raptors. And there's a there's a universe where the Bulls will end up making the playoffs. And I think there's a good chance we're in that universe. There's a pretty, I don't think the Pacers win more than 2 of those games at most. And if the Bulls can just squeak out a win or 2, they'll find themselves in maybe a favorable position going forward. But moving on from Bulls talk, at number 4 we have Jalen Brunson of the Mavericks, another guy who's just come off the bench. I mean, he's only 6 foot tall, but really good at point guard, especially when Luka's not on the floor to just open it up. At 3, we have a guy who's been talked about with the guy that's at 1. My top 3 is pretty set. I think there's a big gap between 3 and 4. But at 3, we have Joe Ingles, who's had a fantastic year shooting. I think he's 48% from 46% from 3. His second career highest was like 43. He's averaging 12 points per game, but he's been so much more than that this season. He's been just really able to pass the ball, and a guy who's looked pretty swell on the court. Another thing about Joe Ingles, I was looking at his career stats, and he's been in the league for 6 years, but in those 6 years, he's missed like a combined 4 games. I couldn't figure out if those were games where he was injured or just games where he was out of the rotation. But he's missed like a combined 4 games in his whole 6 years in Utah, which is pretty impressive, I'll say. At number 2, we have Derrick Rose, former MVP Derrick Rose, now of the Knicks. He's been absolutely sensational for them coming off the bench. Wasn't really as good with the Pistons, but can you really expect anyone to be good with the Pistons? But Derrick Rose, just really good, opening up the floor well. Him and Quickly off the bench, just getting it done. And so a good season for Derrick Rose. And at number 1, we have Jordan Clarkson, averaging 18 points per game. And he's dropped 40 quite a few times this season, I think 3 or 4. And when you have a guy that can come off the bench and drop 40, I've said this, I don't remember what video I said this in, probably the Jazz video a couple months ago. But if you have a guy that can drop 40 off the bench, you have a really good shot at a championship. It doesn't matter how good your starting 5 is, really. They could, as long as they're above average. And this is a Jazz team that is really deep, and Jordan Clarkson's a huge part of that. But yeah, that's going to be it for the 6 Man of the Year video. Leave a like and subscribe. I'm probably going to do, I think, Coach of the Year tomorrow. Although I don't know how long that video will be, considering how few candidates there are. But yeah, leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you tomorrow.